The movie begins with Thomas Lasky, who is a cadet in a space army called the United Nations Space Command. We get to know some other cadets as well. They all understand that they might have to fight the enemy someday, but Thomas is unsure of his abilities. A few months later, Thomas and his squad, called the Hostility Squad, are sent on a training exercise. They have to pretend to fight another team in a make-believe war environment. Their leader, Walter, tells them to attack from the front, but Thomas thinks it's better to go around and make the other team give up. Walter doesn't listen and insists on the frontal attack. Thomas disobeys the orders and goes into the field alone, but it doesn't go well. He gets shot by the enemy team right away, and their squad loses the exercise. April, who leads their squad, gets angry at them for not working together and for losing again. Captain Black, their boss, comes over and scolds the team for their poor performance in their training. He warns them that if they don't get better soon, they might be kicked out of the force. After Thomas's blunder in the last exercise, everyone is pretty upset with him. He tries to defend himself by saying the orders were foolish, but everyone insists that he should just follow orders. Thomas even gets into an argument with his closest friend, Skylar, because he doesn't believe the war makes sense. He thinks the people they're fighting, the insurrectionists, are just overtaxed farmers. Skylar disagrees and tells him they are terrorists who have killed many innocent people. Thomas is called into Colonel Murphy's office for disobeying orders. She tells him that she doesn't want him to get kicked out of the force because she sees his potential to become an excellent soldier. She also reminds him that his mother has high expectations for him, just like his brother. Later that night, Thomas is in his room, watching a recording of his brother, who used to leave him daily updates about the war. They also played chess every day, with Thomas winning each time, showing his strategic skills. Before going to bed, he knocks on the wall, and he and Tyler, who is in the next room, exchange knocks, a silent brotherly connection. Thomas and Tyler's nightly knocks serve as a way to say goodbye and reconcile after their earlier argument. Thomas is delighted when Tyler knocks back, bringing a smile to his face. The next day, Michael is shown accessing a top-secret military recording, and Dima warns him not to nod along with the classified files, as it could lead to disqualification. However, Michael is determined and continues to access the hidden information. Meanwhile, Thomas keeps watching his brother's recordings, but Tyler interrupts him, and they make up. Yet, they still debate the necessity of the war against the insurrectionists. The following morning, a drill alarm goes off, waking up Thomas and the rest of the squad. They need to get ready quickly. April is waiting for them at their designated station, but they take longer because Walter and Thomas were arguing over who should unlock the door. This delay results in one of them not being fully geared, and they fail the test. Captain Black arrives and informs them that they have a final test the next day, which they must pass. The pressure is on for the squad to pass the final test, or they'll be kicked out of the academy. Michael continues to work on recovering the classified videos, but he begins to notice some strange things in the footage, though he can't quite make out what's happening. Despite Dima's warnings, he makes her promise not to tell her mom, a high-ranking colonel in the army. The next morning, everyone is gathered at the breakfast table. April is still upset with Walter and Thomas for their behavior the previous night. She orders them to hand over their food, and they comply. But as they walk away, Walter taunts Thomas by mentioning his brother's death, which makes Thomas furious. He tackles Walter to the ground and starts punching him. Their fist fight is eventually broken up by Colonel Murphy, who then calls Thomas in for starting the fight. Thomas expects to be punished but is surprised when Murphy is actually impressed with him. She tells him he needs to tap into his inner strength and dismisses him without punishment. Later, the squad learns about the Second Punic War, where the Roman Republic had a much larger army than Hannibal's. However, Hannibal used their pride and overconfidence against them. He sacrificed a part of his army as a distraction while he sneaked behind and decimated the Roman forces. The Romans underestimated him and fell into a trap. This serves as a crucial lesson for the squad. Never underestimate the enemy and understand what they might be willing to sacrifice to win. After the class, Thomas and Tyler discuss what they've learned. Thomas is not very impressed with the lesson, but Tyler advises him that if he truly wants to make a difference and stop the war, he should become a leader that others will listen to. The following morning, the squad gathers for their final test of the term. April gives them a motivational pep talk, and just before she sends them to the arena, Thomas asks her to be the squad leader this time. There's a moment of hesitation, but she eventually grants him the command and tells him he better lead his team to victory. The exercise involves capturing the flag, and Thomas's team assembles at their flag, waiting for his command. During the exercise, Thomas notices the other team gathering, and he instructs his team to stay put, causing some boredom as they wait. But his plan is in motion, as he sees the opposing team moving into their intended position. Then, Thomas gives an unusual order. He tells his team to remove their helmets, which they use to track the other team. This baffles his teammates, but they follow his command. The opposing team follows the tracker signal to their area, only to discover abandoned helmets. At this moment, Thomas's team ambushes them from behind and successfully eliminates the enemy. Thomas heads towards the enemy flag, but he suddenly loses consciousness before reaching it. When Thomas wakes up, he finds himself in the medical center. The doctor informs him that he had an allergic reaction to the cryo injection. Thomas is advised to rest while they assess the seriousness of the allergy. He spends the rest of the day sleeping and then wakes up while watching his brother's recordings. Someone asks him why he tortures himself by watching these old videos. She tells him that his team won the exercise because of his leadership and ideas. Their squad receives a voice call from Michael, who urgently asks them to come to his room. The entire squad gathers there, and Michael reveals the recently recovered classified videos. In the footage, they witness Marines and insurrectionists cooperating and fleeing from some unknown threat. This is puzzling because these two groups are supposed to be enemies. As they watch, they see both groups running, and there is a reflection of something terrifying in the visor of an elite soldier's helmet. Unfortunately, the image is not clear enough to discern exactly what they are running from before they can investigate further. The squad is then called to the cafeteria for dinner, and they discuss their speculations about the mysterious enemy. However, Thomas is called into Colonel Murphy's office. She informs him that the medical results indicate a high allergy to the cryo injection, making him eligible for a medical discharge. She hands him the release form and leaves the decision to him whether to stay or leave. Colonel Murphy informs Thomas that if he chooses to leave, he will be discharged the following day, emphasizing that he should consider what he's willing to sacrifice. Thomas returns to his room, unsure of what to do. He starts watching the recording of his mother talking about his brother's death, but his viewing is interrupted by Michael, who urgently asks him to see something important. Michael manages to clear the image reflected in the helmets, but when he attempts to zoom in, the computer deletes the image entirely. Michael panics, fearing that he's been discovered by the authorities, and he rushes off to find Dima to ask if she informed her mother about his illegal activities. Thomas goes for a walk and encounters a fellow cadet sitting on a container. He confides in her about his allergy and the uncertainty of his decision to leave. She inquires if he's departing, to which he replies that he hasn't made up his mind yet. In a moment of silence, they share a kiss. Suddenly, a compound-wide siren blares, and everyone is called to return immediately to the building. An emergency evacuation is ordered, and everyone is instructed to get into the tether for safety. As the squad gathers in the building, they are uncertain about what's happening, but they soon spot elite forces descending from the sky, realizing that an attack is underway. Panic ensues among the people in the building. April tries to calm her squad and instructs them to wait in line for their turn to get to the tether. However, Dima, gripped by fear, breaks the line and uses her mother's A40 clearance to gain priority access to the elevator leading to the tether. The rest of the squad waits for their turn, but just as they are about to enter the elevator, it is struck by a missile and destroyed, killing everyone inside, including Dima. The severed tether begins to fall towards the building, but the remaining squad members narrowly escape in time. They dash to the lower levels and glimpse through a window, discovering that the attackers are aliens. These aliens are merciless, and they proceed to eliminate everyone in their path. The outmatched Marines attempt to halt the alien advance, while the squad heads to the armory to secure weapons. Unfortunately, the armory is locked, and their attempts to break in are futile. The aliens grow even more dangerous by going invisible, making them nearly impossible to combat. The squad decides to flee to the basement, but on the way, Genji falls victim to an invisible alien. The squad made it to the basement, but the aliens followed them there. They all stayed quiet to avoid being noticed, but the alien kept getting closer. Walter decided to distract the alien and told the squad to run, but he was killed before they could escape. The alien then saw the squad and tried to attack them, but an elite soldier named Chief appeared and killed the alien. Chief informed them that they were the only survivors left on Earth, and they had only 15 minutes to reach the Pelicans for evacuation. He easily opened the armory, gave them weapons, and they followed him through the compound, seeing the bodies of the dead. As they left the building, the aliens spotted them and started shooting, hitting Michael in the leg. Chief told the squad to get into an armored car while he held off the aliens. Thomas rides in an armored car with the squad, shooting at the aliens. They have only 4 minutes to reach the Pelican for safety, but the aliens keep shooting at them as they drive through a cold storage area. Chief manages to defeat most of the aliens with his superior skills. Just when they think they're safe, an alien suddenly appears in front of their car, causing a crash that leaves the vehicle unable to move. Chief instructs the squad to head to the extraction point while he fights off the aliens. He helps Michael by using his last bandage to stop the bleeding from his leg wound. However, Chiller then tells them she's been shot in the stomach. Chief urges them to reach the Pelican and orders them not to stop running until they get there. The squad begins running toward the Pelican, but Chiller's condition becomes too severe, forcing them to stop in the middle of their escape. Leaving Chiller behind, the squad administers painkillers, but she removes her tag and gives it to Thomas before apologizing and taking her last breath. Chief soon arrives and informs them that more aliens are approaching. They head toward the Pelican, but they encounter a massive alien blocking their path. In a daring move, Thomas decides to be a decoy and runs in a different direction. The alien starts shooting at him, but while it's distracted, Chief jumps on its back and detonates a bomb, killing the alien. Thomas miraculously survives, and they all make it to the Pelican. Picked up by elite soldiers, they witness the devastated and burning Earth as they depart. Chief praises Thomas's bravery and hands him a black rock he obtained from the fallen giant alien. The movie then jumps ahead several decades, showing an older Thomas still holding the tag and the black rock. He enters a cryopod, humanity's last hope, gearing up for a final battle. The story concludes. Thanks for watching, guys.